What if I told you that the greatest mystery of 17th century France wasn't just a relic of history, but a chilling foreshadowing of the world we live in today? Imagine this: a man imprisoned for decades, his face hidden behind an impenetrable iron mask. No trial, no charges, no name. A living ghost erased from the pages of history, locked away not for what he had done, but for who he was or what he knew. Who was this man? A twin brother to the king, hidden to preserve the monarchy's delicate balance of power? A disgraced noble, punished for speaking truths too dangerous to hear? Or perhaps a figure so deeply intertwined with state secrets that his very existence was deemed a threat to the most powerful man in Europe, Louis XIV, the Sun King. Now imagine this: you're walking through the halls of history's most fortified prisons, their cold stone walls holding whispers of lives stolen and truths concealed. In one such cell sat the man in the iron mask, his identity so dangerous it had to be buried beneath layers of steel and secrecy. Guards were ordered to kill him instantly if he ever removed his mask. His jailers? Forbidden to speak of him, even under the threat of death. The secret was that important. But why? Here's the unsettling part. This isn't just about one man. The story of the man in the iron mask reveals a pattern, a template for how power silences, conceals, and controls. Think about it. Even today, how much of what we know is shaped by the people in charge? What secrets are locked away in the modern equivalents of the Bastille? What truths are buried beneath redacted documents, encrypted files, and state-sanctioned denials? The man in the iron mask was erased to protect something. Someone. A legacy? A throne? Or perhaps a truth that could unravel the fabric of an entire empire. And that's where it gets truly unnerving. This isn't just a story about the past. This is a story about us. About how much of our world operates in the shadows. About the masks we wear and the secrets we keep. Could there be a man in the iron mask right now, hidden in plain sight? Someone locked away, not behind steel bars, but behind layers of digital firewalls, classified files, and a flood of disinformation. This story matters because it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. Truths about how power operates, about what's hidden from us, and why. Who gets to decide what we're allowed to know? And what happens to those who stumble upon the forbidden? To understand, we must go back. Back to the glittering court of Louis XIV, a king who ruled with absolute power. A king who silenced dissent with an iron fist, fortified by propaganda, fear, and a network of spies. The Sun King was no mere ruler. He was the state. And in his kingdom, secrets were currency, and silence was a weapon. The man in the iron mask is more than a mystery. He's a symbol of how far those in power will go to protect their version of the truth. And as we unravel this story, the parallels to our own time become impossible to ignore. So, let me ask you, if the secrets of one masked man could survive centuries, how many secrets are hidden in our world right now? How much of what we accept as truth is merely the shadow of something deeper, darker, and deliberately concealed? Let's uncover the layers of secrecy surrounding the man in the iron mask. Let's explore the hidden corridors of history and see how far power will go to erase the inconvenient. Because this isn't just about him. It's about all of us. What are they still hiding? And why? Brace yourself, because the truth isn't just out there. It's buried. And it's time to start digging. To understand the mystery of the man in the iron mask, we must first examine the world in which his story unfolds, a world ruled by the Sun King, Louis XIV. Imagine a France where one man's will shaped the lives of millions. Louis wasn't just a king, he was an institution, a living embodiment of power, glory, and control. His court at Versailles dazzled with opulence, but behind the golden facade lay a shadowy web of fear, manipulation, and secrecy. Louis XIV ruled through absolute power. He crushed dissent with ruthless efficiency, ensuring that no whisper of rebellion could challenge his divine right to rule. His weapon of choice? The lettre de cachet, sealed orders that allowed him to imprison anyone, for any reason, without trial. These documents were the 17th century equivalent of an unchecked surveillance state, a means to silence enemies and erase inconvenient truths. And erase he did. When the Sun King decided a secret was too dangerous for the light of day, it disappeared, along with anyone who knew it. Political rivals, outspoken critics, even those unfortunate enough to stand in the king's way could vanish overnight, their names stricken from records, their fates unknown. The Man in the Iron Mask was perhaps the most extreme example of this strategy. Not content with mere imprisonment, Louis ensured this man's very identity was obliterated. A mask of iron, a life in darkness. What secret could demand such extremes? But here's where history casts a long shadow. The techniques of control perfected by Louis XIV didn't vanish with his reign. They evolved. Today, we live in a world of mass surveillance, digital tracking, and data collection. Governments no longer need lettres de cachet. They have algorithms, satellites, and encrypted networks. Consider the modern surveillance programs exposed by whistleblowers like Edward Snowden. The NSA's PRISM program revealed the staggering extent of state surveillance, capturing emails, calls, and online activity on a global scale. The justification? National security. The reality? A chilling reminder of how power, unchecked, can infringe on the most basic human freedoms. Is this so different from Louis XIV's secret police, who monitored his subjects' every move? Back then, a slip of the tongue could land you in the Bastille. Today, a poorly worded tweet or a private email could spark an investigation, ruin a career, or place you on a watch list. And just as the Sun King used propaganda to maintain his image as an all-powerful ruler, modern governments wield media and misinformation to shape public perception. The tools have changed, but the game remains the same. Control the narrative. Silence dissent. Protect the secrets. The Man in the Iron Mask was a victim of this game. His identity wasn't just hidden. It was stolen, transformed into a weapon to preserve the king's power. But what does this tell us about today? If history repeats itself, who are our masked prisoners? Who are the people silenced, erased, or concealed to protect modern power structures? Think of Guantanamo Bay, a place shrouded in secrecy where prisoners are held indefinitely without trial. Their identities, stories, and even their charges are often hidden from the public. Or consider the classified operations conducted by intelligence agencies around the world. How many lives have been buried under the weight of a top-secret stamp? Louis XIV's reign teaches us one crucial lesson. The greater the power, the greater the lengths to protect it. The Man in the Iron Mask was a casualty of this truth. His life was sacrificed on the altar of secrecy, his story erased to ensure the stability of the crown. And here's the question we must ask ourselves. Are we still sacrificing lives to protect secrets? Have we traded iron masks for firewalls and propaganda? The parallels are too striking to ignore. From the Sun King's court to the modern surveillance state, the tools of control have evolved, but the goals remain the same. As we delve deeper into the mystery of the Man in the Iron Mask, we're not just uncovering the secrets of the past. We're holding up a mirror to our present. What happens when secrecy becomes a weapon? And who decides which truths we're allowed to know? Imagine the world of 1698, a France defined by gilded excess and absolute monarchy, where the word of the king was law and secrets carried the weight of life or death. Now picture this, a man languishing in the most isolated prisons of the kingdom, his identity hidden behind an iron mask that he was forbidden to remove. His jailers, sworn to kill him if he ever revealed himself, knew only this: his silence wasn't just necessary, it was mandatory. The masked prisoner was first mentioned in official records during his time at the fortress of Pignerol. His jailer, Benigne d'Auvergne de Saint-Mars, carried him from prison to prison over decades, always under conditions of extreme secrecy. At no point was this man's identity officially documented, but rumors flourished like wildfire. Who was he? What was his crime? Why was such extraordinary effort made to conceal him from the world? Some believed he was Louis XIV's twin brother, a man whose mere existence threatened the Sun King's divine right to rule. This theory, immortalized by Alexandre Dumas in The Vicomte of Bragelonne, suggests a succession crisis so dangerous that it had to be hidden, quite literally, behind an iron veil. After all, what could be more destabilizing to an absolute monarchy than the revelation of a rival with equal claim to the throne? Others whispered of an illegitimate son of Anne of Austria, or a disgraced nobleman who knew secrets that could topple the monarchy. Some even speculated he was a scapegoat, a man falsely accused and hidden away to protect someone far more powerful. The possibilities are endless, each more tantalizing and dangerous than the last. But here's where the story becomes even stranger. For centuries, the identity of the man in the Iron Mask has been a subject of intense debate. Theories have emerged and faded, but no definitive proof has ever been uncovered. And in this void of certainty, the mystery thrives. Why? Because history loves a secret, and those in power know how to keep them. Now think about this. How many masked prisoners exist in today's world? The idea of someone being erased by the state may seem like a relic of the past, but consider the parallels. Take the detainees at Guantanamo Bay, many of whom remain anonymous. Their identities, cases, and even the evidence against them are shrouded in secrecy. Or consider the shadowy figures captured in covert operations, individuals whose fates are classified, their existence hidden behind layers of bureaucracy and redaction. In the digital age, the concept of a mask has evolved. It's no longer forged of iron, but constructed through encryption, anonymity, and misinformation. Whistleblowers like Edward Snowden or Julian Assange become modern masked figures, exposed to the public eye yet silenced by governments desperate to protect their secrets. Could the man in the Iron Mask be a template for understanding the lengths to which power will go to silence inconvenient truths? His story suggests that the act of concealment is often more revealing than the secret itself. The question isn't just, who was he? But why did they need him to disappear? The French monarchy understood that power is fragile. A single truth, a single revelation could shatter its foundations. And so, the prisoner's identity was buried beneath layers of deception, his life sacrificed to preserve the myth of absolute control. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Secrecy often invites conspiracy. The more tightly a truth is guarded, the more people are drawn to uncover it. The man in the Iron Mask has become a symbol of suppressed knowledge, a riddle that refuses to fade. In our world, where information flows freely and secrets are harder to keep, the mystery endures. Why? Because even in the age of transparency, some truths remain too dangerous to reveal. And as we dig deeper into this story, we must ask, could there be other men in iron masks, hidden not by walls and chains, but by the machinery of modern power? The man in the Iron Mask story is more than a historical enigma. It's a reflection of a timeless struggle, the battle between secrecy and truth, power and justice. And it forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality. The more things change, the more they stay the same. We've only scratched the surface. The deeper we go, the more disturbing the implications become. Who was the man in the Iron Mask? And what does his story reveal about the world we live in today? Who was the man in the Iron Mask? This question has haunted historians, writers, and conspiracy theorists for centuries. Theories abound, each one more tantalizing than the last, and each revealing a deeper truth about the mechanisms of power and secrecy. Let's peel back the layers and explore the most compelling possibilities. One of the most enduring theories is the twin brother hypothesis. According to this idea, the man in the Iron Mask was none other than the secret twin of Louis XIV. In a monarchy where the king was seen as divinely chosen, the existence of a twin could spark chaos. Who would have the right to rule? Imagine the fear gripping Louis XIV's advisors as they considered the implications. Rival factions, civil war, and the potential collapse of the monarchy. The solution? Erase the twin from history. Hide him behind an iron mask and lock him away where he could neither speak nor be seen. The twin theory is irresistible because it explains the extreme secrecy surrounding the prisoner. If the king's divine right to rule was called into question, the entire system could crumble. And yet, doesn't this sound eerily familiar? In modern times, similar cover-ups have surrounded powerful families, from royal scandals in the British monarchy to allegations of illegitimate heirs in political dynasties. The stakes may have changed, but the tactics remain strikingly similar. Another theory proposes the prisoner was an illegitimate son of Anne of Austria, Louis XIV's mother. This scenario paints the prisoner as a painful reminder of royal indiscretions, an embarrassment so profound that it was easier to erase him entirely. After all, what could be more damaging to the Sun King's image than the revelation that his mother's reputation, and by extension the crown's legitimacy, was tainted? And yet, the illegitimate heir theory isn't confined to history. In modern politics, whispers of hidden affairs and illegitimate children continue to haunt powerful figures. Think of the stories surrounding John F. Kennedy's rumored love children, or the tightly controlled narratives of contemporary royal families. The machinery of power has always been adept at burying uncomfortable truths. Then there's the political scapegoat theory. In this version, the man in the iron mask was a political dissident or a whistleblower, someone who knew too much. Perhaps he had uncovered a conspiracy within Louis XIV's court, or was privy to secrets that could destabilize the monarchy. His imprisonment was a warning: betray the king and you'll be erased. This theory resonates deeply with modern parallels. Whistleblowers like Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning have revealed how governments respond to those who expose inconvenient truths. Instead of iron masks, we see character assassinations, legal prosecutions, and the weaponization of secrecy laws. The message remains the same: silence is golden, and speaking out comes at a cost. Another theory that continues to capture imaginations is what we might call the buried truth conspiracy. In this version, the man in the iron mask represents not an individual, but an idea, a living symbol of forbidden knowledge. His imprisonment wasn't just about concealing his identity, it was about suppressing something he knew. Perhaps it was a secret so destabilizing that it could not be allowed to surface, even centuries later. This idea extends beyond Louis XIV's court. In the modern era, there are countless examples of suppressed truths. Governments classify documents, redact information, and silence witnesses to ensure that some stories remain untold. Could it be that the man in the iron mask represents a broader trend, the lengths to which power will go to bury the truth? Finally, let's consider one last possibility. What if the man in the iron mask wasn't anyone extraordinary at all? What if he was simply a pawn in a larger game, his imprisonment a means to distract, manipulate, or conceal something far greater? After all, sometimes the simplest answer is the most devastating. The idea that an ordinary man could be transformed into one of history's greatest enigmas says more about the nature of secrecy and power than any grand conspiracy ever could. What makes this mystery so captivating is not just the question of who the man in the iron mask was, but why his identity needed to be hidden. Every theory, no matter how plausible or outlandish, reflects a timeless truth. Those in power will go to extraordinary lengths to protect their interests, even if it means rewriting history. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. If a secret this significant could be hidden for centuries, what other secrets are being kept from us today? Could there be modern men in iron masks, their identities concealed, their stories erased, all to preserve the delicate balance of power? As we dig deeper, one thing becomes clear. The man in the iron mask is not just a historical enigma. He's a symbol, a reminder that even in a world flooded with information, the truth can still be hidden. But the more you look, the more you realize. The masks may change, but the secrets never do. In the late 19th century, Alexandre Dumas wrote The Vicomte of Bragelonne, introducing the man in the iron mask to a global audience. With his flair for drama and intrigue, Dumas turned a historical footnote into a cultural phenomenon. His story captured imaginations, blending fact with fiction, and gave the mystery a life of its own. But while Dumas immortalized the legend, he also raised a critical question: how does storytelling shape the way we understand the truth? Let's go back to the 17th century. During Louis XIV's reign, the court of Versailles didn't just project wealth and power, it carefully curated the king's image. Through art, architecture, and proclamations, Louis was portrayed as the divine ruler, the Sun King, chosen by God to guide France. This wasn't just vanity, it was propaganda. By controlling the narrative, Louis controlled his people. The man in the iron mask was the antithesis of this strategy. He was a hidden truth, locked away to ensure the official story of the monarchy remained untarnished. His very existence threatened the image Louis had so carefully crafted. The king's use of secrecy and erasure reveals a fundamental truth about power. It's not just about what you do, it's about what people believe you're doing. Fast forward to today, and the tools of narrative control have evolved dramatically. Fictionalized accounts, like Dumas' novel, have been replaced by movies, television, and social media as the primary drivers of public perception. Hollywood blockbusters like Zero Dark 30 and Argo dramatize real-life events, blending truth with fiction in ways that shape how we remember them. These stories entertain us, but they also influence how we perceive history and sometimes obscure the truth. Take the case of whistleblowers like Edward Snowden. While some documentaries and films have portrayed him as a hero exposing government overreach, others frame him as a traitor who jeopardized national security. The media doesn't just reflect reality, it helps construct it. Much like Dumas' novels shaped the public's understanding of the man in the iron mask, today's media shapes how we interpret modern secrets and conspiracies. Consider the role of social media. In a digital age where information spreads faster than ever, it's tempting to think we're closer to the truth. But social media is a double-edged sword. While it enables whistleblowers to share information, it also fuels disinformation and conspiracy theories. The man in the iron mask story spread through whispers and tavern tales. Today, similar mysteries go viral in seconds, amplified by algorithms designed to prioritize engagement over accuracy. Think of modern conspiracy theories, from shadowy deep state operatives to alleged cover-ups surrounding major political events. These theories often thrive because they tap into the same fears and doubts that the man in the iron mask story evokes. The idea that those in power will do whatever it takes to protect their secrets. But there's another side to this. Just as the French monarchy used secrecy to consolidate power, modern governments and corporations use strategic leaks, controlled narratives, and selective transparency to shape public opinion. They recognize that controlling the story is just as important as controlling the facts. Even whistleblowers and independent journalists face challenges in uncovering the truth. For every Snowden or Assange, there are countless others whose stories are suppressed, ignored, or discredited. The line between uncovering the truth and fabricating a story is often blurred, and the stakes couldn't be higher. This brings us back to the man in the iron mask. His story is a powerful reminder that history is written not by what happens, but by who tells the story. Dumas turned him into a literary icon, but the French monarchy erased him from its official records. The truth lies somewhere in between, a place where fact and fiction collide, and where power decides which version of the story we're allowed to hear. As we navigate the complexities of modern media, we should ask ourselves, how many truths are still hidden behind carefully constructed narratives? How many secrets are buried under the weight of fiction, propaganda, and misinformation? And most importantly, can we ever truly know the full story? The Man in the Iron Mask teaches us one thing. The battle between secrecy and truth is not fought in prisons or palaces alone. It's fought in the stories we tell and the stories we believe. And in the age of information, where everyone has a voice but not all voices are heard, the fight for truth has never been more critical or more complicated. The mystery isn't just about who the man in the iron mask was. It's about what his story represents, the power of narrative to conceal, reveal, and control. And as we continue our journey, one thing is clear. The masks we wear today may not be made of iron, but their impact is just as profound. For centuries, historians and researchers have pored over every scrap of evidence tied to the man in the iron mask, trying to uncover his identity. Official records, eyewitness accounts, and court documents provide tantalizing clues, but also glaring gaps. The lack of concrete evidence is almost as suspicious as the mystery itself. Was it all deliberately erased? Or does the truth simply elude us, buried by the passage of time? The first recorded mention of the masked prisoner comes from the reign of Louis XIV. Historians have found references to a mysterious captive held under the care of Saint Mars, a trusted jailer of the French crown. This man was transported between prisons over several decades, always under conditions of extreme secrecy. Yet official records rarely identify him by name, referring to him only cryptically. Why such obsessive secrecy? Why would the French monarchy go to such lengths to erase a single individual? Theories abound, but the lack of documentation is striking. It's almost as if the story was designed to be forgotten. And yet, certain details stand out. Contemporary accounts describe the prisoner as treated unusually well for someone in captivity. His quarters were furnished, his meals were refined, and he had access to books. These luxuries suggest he was no ordinary prisoner. Was he of noble birth? A royal scandal swept under the rug? Or a valuable political figure silenced to protect the state? But here's where the story takes a darker turn. The French monarchy wasn't just adept at keeping secrets, it excelled at suppressing inconvenient truths. The lettre de cachet, for instance, allowed the king to imprison anyone without trial or explanation. These orders were tools of control, designed to ensure the monarchy's grip on power. Was the man in the iron mask yet another victim of this system, hidden away to safeguard the delicate balance of power in Louis XIV's court? Now consider the parallels to our modern era. Governments today employ similarly opaque tactics, from classified operations to redacted documents. When Edward Snowden revealed the extent of mass surveillance programs like PRISM, he exposed not just the invasion of privacy, but the machinery of secrecy that powers modern states. Classified files, hidden detainees, and covert operations, these are the 21st century versions of lettre de cachet. Take Guantanamo Bay, where detainees are held indefinitely, often without charge or trial. Their identities and stories are classified, hidden from public scrutiny. Or think of black sites, secret prisons used by intelligence agencies to interrogate individuals outside the boundaries of law. These are the modern equivalents of the Bastille, where prisoners like the man in the iron mask were kept out of sight and out of mind. But secrecy doesn't just protect the powerful, it also fuels skepticism. The less we know, the more we speculate. The man in the iron mask story has inspired countless conspiracy theories, precisely because the truth is so elusive. Was he Louis XIV's twin brother? A disgraced noble? Or something even more shocking? The absence of evidence becomes its own kind of evidence, inviting speculation to fill the void. This phenomenon isn't limited to history. In our time, the veil of secrecy often obscures truths that only emerge years later. Take the Pentagon Papers, which revealed the extent of government deception during the Vietnam War. Or Watergate, where an intricate web of lies unraveled to expose corruption at the highest levels of power. These examples remind us that skepticism is not only healthy, it's necessary. But there's a catch. Skepticism can be weaponized. Governments and institutions often use the label of conspiracy theory to discredit legitimate inquiries. Whistleblowers are branded as traitors, and those who question the official narrative are dismissed as paranoid. This creates a chilling effect, discouraging people from seeking the truth. So where does that leave us? The man in the iron mask remains a potent symbol of what happens when power goes unchecked and secrecy becomes a weapon. His story forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. What secrets are still being kept from us? How many stories remain untold, hidden behind classified files and closed doors? The deeper we dig, the more we realize that the man in the iron mask isn't just a historical enigma. He's a warning, A reminder that the truth is often buried, not because it lacks importance, but because it's too important to reveal. As we move forward, let's examine the legacy of secrecy in the digital age and the lengths to which power will go to protect itself. The man in the iron mask may be gone, but his story is far from over. The question is, are we ready to confront the secrets of our time? The man in the iron mask is more than a historical curiosity. He's a symbol, a cautionary tale about the dangers of secrecy and the abuse of power. His story echoes across centuries, evolving as the tools of control change, but the motives remain the same. From the fortified walls of Pinguerol to the digital firewalls of today, the legacy of the mask continues to shape how power operates in an age defined by surveillance and disinformation. In Louis XIV's time, secrecy was enforced with physical walls, armed guards, and iron masks. The prisoner's identity was buried, protected by the literal isolation of stone fortresses. Today, the tools of secrecy have shifted into the digital realm. Governments and corporations wield encryption, firewalls, and algorithms to hide their actions and control information. But the underlying principle remains unchanged. Control the narrative, and you control the people. Think of the digital age as a new kind of Versailles, a dazzling facade of connectivity and transparency, concealing the vast machinery of surveillance beneath. Mass data collection, from your search history to your private conversations, forms a digital dossier on every individual. Governments justify these practices as necessary for national security, just as Louis XIV justified his lettre de cachet. But who decides where the line is drawn? And how do we know when the tools of protection become tools of oppression? Whistleblowers like Edward Snowden and Julian Assange have pulled back the curtain, revealing the lengths to which modern states will go to maintain secrecy. Their revelations showed us how deeply embedded surveillance has become in our daily lives. But they also raised a disturbing question. If this is what we've uncovered, what secrets remain hidden? The man in the iron mask story is a stark reminder of how secrecy can be used to control not just individuals, but entire populations. His imprisonment wasn't just about silencing one man, it was about preserving a system of power that relied on controlling the truth. Today, we see similar dynamics at play. From classified operations to suppressed investigations, modern power structures depend on their ability to obscure, deflect, and deny. But the mask's legacy is also a symbol of resistance. His story, kept alive through centuries of speculation and storytelling, proves that secrets have a way of coming to light. Even in an era of unprecedented secrecy, the truth has its champions: journalists, whistleblowers, activists, who risk everything to reveal what others would keep hidden. Consider the parallels between the man in the iron mask and figures like Chelsea Manning or Reality Winner. These individuals are the modern equivalents of masked prisoners, their lives upended by the secrets they exposed. Their stories remind us that while power seeks to conceal, there will always be those who strive to uncover the truth. And yet, the digital age presents new challenges. The sheer volume of information, combined with disinformation campaigns and algorithmic manipulation, makes it harder than ever to discern fact from fiction. It's a paradox. In an era where everything is recorded, the truth is more elusive than ever. The man in the iron mask also serves as a metaphor for something deeper: the masks we all wear in a world of constant surveillance. Social media profiles, curated personas, and online anonymity are modern iron masks, concealing our true selves while exposing us to unprecedented scrutiny. We are both prisoners and participants in a system that thrives on our willingness to hide in plain sight. So what is the legacy of the mask? It's a warning and a challenge. A warning that secrecy is a powerful weapon, capable of erasing lives and rewriting history. And a challenge to remain vigilant, to question the narratives we're given, and to seek out the truths hidden behind the masks of power. The tools may have changed, but the dynamics of control remain the same. Whether it's a man in an iron mask or a whistleblower in exile, the struggle between secrecy and transparency, power and truth, is as relevant today as it was in Louis XIV's court. The question is, will we learn from history, or are we destined to repeat it? What secrets are being kept from us right now, and what price are we willing to pay to uncover them? As we conclude this journey, remember, the mask may be a relic of the past, but its story is far from over. The battle for truth continues. The story of the man in the iron mask has endured for centuries, not because it was solved, but because it wasn't. His identity, his crime, or perhaps his innocence, remains a riddle, drawing us deeper into the labyrinth of secrecy and power. But why does this mystery continue to captivate us? Because it reflects a fundamental truth. The unknown holds a power all its own. In the end, the theories surrounding the man in the iron mask, his possible identity as Louis XIV's twin, a political dissident, or a pawn in a larger conspiracy, are less about him and more about us. They reveal our fascination with the lengths to which those in power will go to maintain control. They force us to confront the uncomfortable reality that history isn't always written by the victors. It's often erased by them. But let's consider this. If the secrets surrounding one man could remain hidden for more than 3 centuries, what does that say about the secrets of our own time? Could we be living through modern mysteries that will one day be as baffling and controversial as the man in the iron mask? Are there prisoners today, whether physical, political, or ideological, whose stories are too dangerous to tell? The mask teaches us an essential lesson. The tools of secrecy may evolve, but the motivations behind them remain the same. Governments conceal inconvenient truths to preserve stability. Institutions guard their secrets to protect their influence. Individuals wear masks, literal or metaphorical, to shield themselves from judgment or harm. Think about the secrets of today. Classified files that remain hidden behind redactions and legal barriers. Modern surveillance programs that collect data on billions of people but operate in the shadows. Political scandals and corporate cover-ups that will only surface decades from now, if ever. What would it take to uncover these secrets? The courage of a whistleblower? The persistence of investigative journalists? Or perhaps the sheer power of time itself, which has a way of unearthing truths no matter how deeply they're buried? The man in the iron mask's story endures because it's a microcosm of a larger struggle. The tension between secrecy and transparency, control and freedom. It challenges us to think critically about the stories we're told and the truths we're denied. It reminds us that power, unchecked, will always seek to conceal. But it also reminds us of the resilience of human curiosity. For centuries, people have refused to let the mask's story fade into obscurity. Writers like Voltaire and Dumas kept the flame alive, ensuring that this mysterious figure would never truly disappear. In doing so, they proved that secrets may be hidden, but they're rarely forgotten. So, as we reflect on this journey through history, ask yourself, what secrets are being hidden from us right now? What truths might we uncover if we dare to question, to investigate, and to demand transparency? And most importantly, what can we do to ensure that the stories of today, the ones that matter most, don't end up locked away behind the iron masks of our time? The tools may have changed, the stakes may be higher, but the game remains the same. The man in the iron mask isn't just a story, it's a challenge, a call to action, a reminder that the pursuit of truth is never over, and the battle against secrecy is one we must all fight. The mask may have hidden his face, but it couldn't silence his story.